We see plants literally every single day, but have you ever stopped to think about how they actually work? Today, we're going to do just that. We're going to build a plant from the ground up, starting with the roots and working our way all the way to the flower, figuring out the why behind every single part. All right, let's dig in. So, what really makes a plant a plant? It sounds like such a basic question, right? But the answer is this incredible story of natural engineering and survival. And to really get it, we first have to know who's who in the plant world. So let's start with how scientists group them into a few main categories. Think of it kind of like a family tree for the entire green world. Plants get sorted together based on a few really simple, visible clues. It basically all comes down to their size and what their stem is like. And it actually breaks down really simply. First up, you've got your herbs. Think of a tomato plant. They're usually smaller and they have those soft, green, tender stems. Then you move up to shrubs, like a rose bush. They're medium-sized with harder, woody stems that start branching out right near the ground. And of course, the giants, trees. They're tall with a thick, hard trunk and their branches don't even start until way up high. But, not all plants can stand up on their own. Some have really weak stems. So they've come up with two super clever strategies to deal with that. On one hand, you have creepers, like a pumpkin vine, that just spread out and crawl along the ground to find sunlight and space. And then you have the climbers, like a pea plant. They use anything they can find, a fence, another plant, anything, to climb up and race everyone else to the top for that precious sunlight. Okay, so we've got our basic categories down. Now it's time to actually start building our plant. And we're going to start where all plant life begins, with the foundation. That whole support system for everything is happening right under our feet, in the hidden world of the roots. So what are these roots actually doing down there in the dark? Well, they're juggling two absolutely critical jobs. First, they're the plant's anchor. They grip the soil, hanging on for dear life, so the plant doesn't get knocked over by wind or washed away by rain. And second, they're the plant's straw, constantly sucking up all the water and nutrients from the soil that the rest of the plant needs to live. But not all root systems look the same. First, you've got the taproot. The perfect example is a carrot. It's basically just one huge main root that drills straight down deep into the soil, with just a few smaller roots branching off the side. This design is fantastic for reaching water that's buried way down deep. And then you've got the total opposite, the fibrous root system. Instead of one big mean root, this is like a dense, messy web of thousands of thin roots that spread out wide just under the surface. Grass is a classic example. That web is so effective at holding soil that it literally prevents erosion. So this brings us to a really cool little puzzle. Is there any way to know what kind of root system a plant has just by looking at it, without having to grab a shovel and dig the whole thing up? It seems like it'd be impossible, but nature always leaves clues. And you're not going to believe this, but the answer isn't underground at all. The secret is actually hiding in plain sight, right there on the leaves. We are definitely coming back to solve this mystery in a minute, but first, let's continue our journey up the plant. Okay, moving up from the roots, we hit the stem. Now you might think it's just a simple stick holding the plant up, but nope. Think of the stem as a bustling, two-way superhighway, constantly moving all of life's essentials from one place to another. So this highway has two main jobs. One, it's the plant's backbone, giving it structure and holding up all the leaves so they can reach the sunlight. And two, it's that transportation network. Water and minerals travel up from the roots, while all the food that's made in the leaves travels down to nourish the rest of the plant. And here's a wild thought. You can actually see this transport system in action with a super simple experiment. If you take a white flower, like a carnation, and stick it in a glass of colored water, you can literally watch the stem work like a straw, pulling that color all the way up and into the petals. It's the plant's plumbing, working right before your eyes. All right, so we've traveled up that highway in the stem, and now we've reached the plant's bustling, solar-powered factories, the leaves. This right here is where the most amazing magic in the natural world happens. The leaf's number one job is a little process you've probably heard of called photosynthesis. It's this incredible chemical reaction that basically creates food out of thin air and sunlight. The leaf takes water that came up from the roots, carbon dioxide from the air, and uses the sun's energy to cook them up into sugars, plant food. And the key ingredient that makes it all possible is that green stuff, a pigment called chlorophyll. But wait, there's more. Leaves also have to manage the plant's water supply, and they do that through a process called transpiration. They release any extra water they have as water vapor through these tiny little pores called stomata. You can almost think of it as the plant breathing out. Okay, remember our mystery about the roots? Well, the clue has been right here this whole time, hidden in the pattern of the leaf's veins. Just take a look. Some leaves, like on a rose bush, have this branching, net-like pattern. That's called reticulate venation. Others, like a blade of grass, have veins that all run in straight parallel lines. And that's called parallel venation. These two patterns, they're the key to everything. And here it is, the big reveal. That pattern on the leaf tells you exactly what's going on underground. It's amazing. If you see that net-like reticulate pattern on the leaves, you can bet that plant has a deep taproot. And if you see those straight parallel veins, it's going to have a shallow, fibrous root system. It's a perfect correlation. The secret was never buried at all. So we've built the foundation, the support structure, and the food factory. Now we've reached the grand finale, the showstopper of our plant's journey, the flower. And it's not just there to look pretty, it's the entire command center for the plant's reproduction. So let's take a look inside a typical flower. On the very outside, you have the sepals. Those are the little green leaves that wrap around to protect the flower when it's just a bud. Then you have the flashy, colorful petals, which are basically just big, bright advertisements to attract pollinators like bees and butterflies. And then, right in the middle, you get to the really important stuff, the reproductive parts, the male stamen and the female pistil. Okay, let's zoom in a little bit. The male part, the stamen, is made of two bits, the anther, which is where all the pollen is made, and the filament, which is just the stalk holding it up. The female part, the pistil, has three sections, the stigma, which is the sticky top part designed to catch pollen, the style, which is the tube leading down, and the ovary at the very base, which holds the little ovules that will eventually become seeds. So, from the deepest, unseen tip of a root to the most vibrant petal on a flower, every single piece of a plant has a job. It's all part of this perfectly interconnected system, all working together. It really makes you think, doesn't it? As you go about your day, what other amazing, complex wonders are hiding in plain sight, just waiting for us to notice?